Imagine for a second walking into a hospital for a major operation,
Okay, I'm picturing it.
and the surgeon who walks up to your bed to introduce themselves is wearing this grease-stained mechanic's jumpsuit.
I mean, you would panic.
Right. Your heart rate would just completely spike.
Yeah.
Because, what we wear fundamentally communicates our duty.
Yeah, it broadcasts our identity and our mission.
Exactly. Well, it turns out the ancient texts that we often treat as just dusty history books have been using this exact same psychological code for millennia.
They really have, and it's fascinating.
Because usually when we look at an ancient religious or historical document, we expect a straightforward history lesson.
Right, just the facts.
Yeah, we expect this dry account of what happened to who thousands of years ago.
Yeah.
We look at it like a museum exhibit behind glass.
Like a static object.
Exactly. A chariot is just a chariot. A coat is just a coat.
Which is an incredibly static way to read anything, frankly.
Yeah.
When we lock these texts into a purely historical framework, they become dead artifacts.
They don't speak to us anymore.
Right. They might be interesting for their antique value or maybe their sociological context, but they stop interacting with us.
I mean, it's a very binary, just the facts way of looking at the past.
And it completely misses the rich subterranean layers of meaning that the original authors were constantly weaving into the text.
But then you encounter a framework, right? A specific way of reading these texts that just absolutely shatters that glass.
It really does change everything.
Suddenly you aren't looking at a museum piece anymore. You're looking at, you're looking at the green cascading code of the Matrix.
That's a perfect analogy.
To the uninitiated eye, it's just a song someone is singing on a hill or a piece of clothing a character happens to be wearing in a story.
Just a random detail.
Right. But to the person who has the cipher, it is a profound, almost aggressive statement about truth, identity, and cosmic warfare.
It's all highly intentional.
Welcome to another deep dive. Today we are taking you into a deeply fascinating piece of source material.
It's quite a dense one today.
It really is. It's a dense, highly symbolic theological lecture that acts as a master cipher, decoding the hidden language of ancient religious texts.
And we should probably set some boundaries right out of the gate here.
Oh, absolutely.
Our mission for you today is absolutely not about taking a religious stance.
No, not at all.
We aren't here to preach, and we aren't here to endorse the theology itself. Rather, we are unpacking an incredibly intricate linguistic and metaphorical puzzle.
It's an analytical deep dive.
Exactly. The source material we are examining argues that these texts are not simple historical diaries.
Right.
They are complex, interconnected codes where everyday, mundane objects like a belt, a fig leaf, or even the vibration of a vocal cord hold immense psychological and spiritual weight.
So today's deep dive focuses on two very specific recurring metaphors that our source text breaks down.
The primary ones, yeah.
The first is songs, which we can think of as the auditory metaphor.
And the second is garments, which act as the visual or embodied metaphor.
Now, what captivated me in this material is how it links physical items to absolute states of human consciousness and duty.
That's the real core of it. The psychological mechanisms described in this ancient framework apply just as much to the dynamics of a modern corporate boardroom.
Oh, 100%.
Or how we construct our avatars on social media, It applies just as much today as it did on an ancient mountaintop.
So as we break this down, I want you, the listener, to actively think about the uniforms you wear in your own life.
And the songs you project into the world.
Let's jump right into that first piece. Before we can even look at what the figures in these ancient texts are wearing, we have to listen to what they are saying.
Or, more accurately, what they are singing.
Right. The source text puts a massive emphasis on auditory codes, specifically focusing on this concept of the new song.
The new song is a pivotal concept in this framework. The text frequently refers to it as the Song of Moses and the Song of the Lamb.
Okay, drawing from the book of Revelation, right?
Yeah. Yes. Now, within this specific cipher, this song is highly exclusive. It is sung only by a specific group, identified symbolically as the 144,000 standing on Mount Zion.
Okay, let's pause for a second because we can't just drop 144,000 on Mount Zion and keep walking.
Fair enough, yeah.
For someone who isn't steeped in ancient apocalyptic literature, what exactly does that mean? Why that number and why that mountain?
It's a great question because if you take it literally, you get caught up in strange logistics.
Like, how do you fit that many people on one hill?
Exactly. In the symbolic language of these texts, Mount Zion isn't just a geographic location in the Middle East.
Right.
It represents the ultimate high ground of spiritual truth. It's the pinnacle of revelation.
Ah, so it's a state of being.
Right. And the number 144,000 is widely considered by textual scholars and intensely by our source material to be a highly symbolic number.
So it's not a head count. No.
It's derived from 12 times 12 times 1,000.
Okay, break that down for me.
Well, 12 represents complete authority or structure like 12 tribes or 12 apostles.
Got it.
And 1,000 represents a vast, complete multitude. So this group represents a complete, structured remnant of people who have reached the highest peak of understanding.
So they have the ultimate high ground.
Exactly. They have the ultimate high ground.
And it is from that high ground that they sing this new song.
Yes.
But the source is very explicit here, and this is where my mind was just blown. Singing, in this context, have absolutely nothing to do with musical talent.
Not at all.
It's not about hitting an F sharp or having perfect pitch or being in a choir.
No, if we look closely at the source's logic, singing is strictly defined as the act of speaking the fully realized, fulfilled words of a prophecy.
Wow.
It is the vocalization of a truth that has gone from being a theoretical promise to a concrete physical reality.
So it's the difference between reading a blueprint and actually describing the finished building standing right in front of you.
Let's pull on that thread because it's the perfect way to understand this.
Okay.
Anyone can hold a piece of paper and read the dimensions of a house. You can say, the kitchen will be here, the living room will be 20 feet wide.
Right, that's easy.
That is prophecy, that is reading the promise.
Okay.
But only the person standing inside the finished living room, touching the painted walls, walking on the hardwood floors, can sing the new song of the completed structure.
Oh, that makes so much sense. You have to be there.
Yes. And the source makes this stark, almost terrifying point.
Which is?
If a person runs away, if they abandon their post or their duty before the house is built, they cannot sing.
Oh, wow.
Even if they know all the words to the prophecy, they have lost the song.
Because they didn't stick around to see it happen.
Exactly. If you run away, you just have the old blueprint. You are disqualified from testifying to the reality.
Because the song is the undeniable evidence of an experience.
You cannot sing about a reality you haven't inhabited.
This fundamentally shifts how we view the idea of a choir in these texts.
It completely reframes it.
It's not a musical performance. It is a mass testimony. It is a group of people vocalizing a shared, undeniable reality that they stayed behind to witness.
It's a very powerful image when you look at it that way.
It's fascinating how much weight this text puts on sound as evidence. But if there is a song of truth, the source doesn't stop there.
No, it introduces a counter melody.
A very dark, opposing frequency, the song of the ruthless.
Drawing from texts like Isaiah 25.5 and Revelation 18, the source outlines this flip side.
Okay.
The opposing forces in this cosmic narrative, personified as the devil and represented by symbolic entities like Babylon and the Nicolaitans, they also have their own songs.
They have their own music.
Right. The text specifically refers to them as triumph songs or songs of the violent.
Wait, Nicolaitans.
Yeah.
Babylon I can conceptualize, right?
Yeah.
Like the Big Bad Empire.
Mm-hmm.
But who exactly are the Nicolaitans in this context?
Historically, the Nicolaitans were an obscure early sect mentioned briefly in Revelation. They were infamous for compromising with the surrounding culture. They essentially said, you can worship the divine truth, but you can also eat meat sacrificed to idols and participate in the local corrupt pagan festivals.
So they're the ultimate compromisers.
Exactly. In this cipher, they represent a dilution of the truth.
And what about Babylon?
Babylon, on the other hand, represents systemic domination and economic exploitation.
Right.
So when the source talks about the Song of the Ruthless, it's talking about the frequencies of compromise, coercion, and violent force.
The source describes this Babylon not as some ancient ruin in Mesopotamia, but as a current active lair.
A place filled with unclean birds and demons.
Their song isn't about truth at all. It's the sound of domination. It's the music playing in the background while they exploit people.
And here is where the mechanical sequence of the text becomes vital.
Okay, lay it out for me.
The source points out a very specific order of operations. It notes that Babylon's music, specifically mentioning the sound of harps and flutes, must be completely silenced.
You can't just be ignored.
No, their triumph song is strictly forbidden from continuing. It has to be actively shut down before the next phase can begin.
It's a literal clash of frequencies.
Exactly.
The new song cannot fully exist, or at least it cannot be properly heard, while the Song of the Ruthless is blasting over the loudspeakers.
You just have noise.
Right. Which brings us to the Hallelujah chorus, the aftermath.
Right. If you look at Revelation 19, this massive, grand hallelujah only occurs after the ruthless song is silenced, after Babylon has fallen.
So it's sequential.
Yes. The source draws a brilliant historical parallel here to anchor the concept, comparing this sequence to the fall of Jericho in the Old Testament.
Oh, the famous story where they march around the walls of Jericho, blow the horns, and the walls come tumbling down.
That's the one. The key is the sequence.
How so?
The source emphasizes that the true song of absolute victory, the genuine hallelujah, only rings out after the walls of the opposing city have completely collapsed.
So not during the battle.
Right. Think about the psychological warfare of that moment. You do not sing the final victory song while the enemy's walls are still standing.
No, that'd be crazy.
While they are still looking down at you from the parapets, blasting their own triumph song to demoralize you.
You'd look foolish.
Exactly. The silencing of the opposing force, the dismantling of their structure, is a strict prerequisite for the ultimate song of truth.
So what does this actually mean for you listening right now?
Yeah, let's bring it back to today.
Because we obviously aren't fighting literal battles outside ancient walled cities.
Hopefully not.
But think about the auditory real estate of your own mind.
That's a great way to put it.
What voices, what triumph songs of negativity, chaos, or imposter syndrome in your own life need to be actively silenced before you can actually sing your own new song?
It's a very grounding way to apply this cipher.
It really is.
If your mental environment is constantly playing the song of the ruthless, the song of anxiety, of societal pressure, of toxic comparisons you see online.
The song that tells you aren't enough.
Exactly. You cannot hear your own truth. You are essentially trying to sing a delicate harmony while standing next to a jet engine.
Wow, yes. You have to silence the noise before you can sing the reality.
You have to clear the frequency.
That intentional curation of what we listen to is powerful. But the text doesn't just leave us with the auditory.
No, it moves on.
It doesn't stop at what you hear. It pivots to something much more visual, much more tactile. It moves to what these people are actually wearing.
Which takes us from the song you sing to the garment you wear.
And the metaphor of clothing in these ancient texts is, according to our source, one of the most chronically misunderstood codes in history.
It really is. People read these texts and think they are about ancient fashion or modesty or keeping warm in the desert.
Right.
But the source lays down a very strict, almost mechanical, three-part definition of what a garment represents.
Okay, what are the three parts?
Number 1, truth. Number 2, behavior or actions. And number 3, mission or duty.
This goes back to our surgeon analogy from the very beginning.
Yes, exactly.
If I put on a doctor's white coat and walk into an exam room, you instantly expect three things from me.
You expect a certain truth.
Right, that I possess actual medical knowledge. You expect a certain behavior.
That you will act with professional care and ethics.
And you expect a certain mission, that my duty is to heal you.
All communicated by the coat.
Right. If I take that coat off, throw it on the floor, and walk out of the room, I haven't just changed my outfit for the afternoon.
No, you've abandoned your role.
I have stepped away from my duty.
The coat isn't just fabric, it's a social contract.
I love that. A social contract.
And the source is arguing that our spiritual or moral truth acts exactly like that uniform. It's an outward manifestation of an internal reality.
And to illustrate what happens when that reality catastrophically breaks down, the source walks through a deeply fascinating three-stage wardrobe change involving Adam.
The first man.
Yeah, this was easily one of the most eye-opening parts of the source material for me.
It completely reframes the whole Genesis story.
This isn't just a quaint story about a guy in a garden with a snake. It's a blueprint of psychological devolution.
It's a tragedy told through clothing.
Let's walk through it. Stage 1, the garment of God.
According to this cipher, Adam starts out clothed in divine truth and mission.
He's wearing the ultimate uniform.
He is fully suited up in his purpose. His mission, symbolically, was to tend and guard the garden, to maintain the structure of truth.
Okay.
But, according to the narrative, he fails. He disobeys, and consequently, he loses that garment. He becomes naked.
And within the code of this source material, nakedness has absolutely nothing to do with physical biology.
Nothing at all. Nakedness means he completely lost his mission.
He dropped his truth.
He took off the doctor's coat. He is spiritually and functionally unemployed.
Wow. So he's standing there without a mission, feeling the immense shame of that loss of status.
He knows he's supposed to be wearing the uniform, and he isn't.
Which leads him to stage 2, the fig leaves. And here is where the source's decoding gets incredibly specific and, frankly, savage.
It truly is. We all know the cultural image of Adam and Eve awkwardly sewing fig leaves together.
Yeah, covering up.
But the text doesn't view this as primitive tailoring. It interprets leaves by cross-referencing other symbolic passages in ancient Near Eastern literature.
Right.
In many of these texts, take Nebuchadnezzar's dream in the book of Daniel, for instance, trees represent leaders or kings.
Trees are leaders. Got it.
The branches represent their administration or reach. The fruit is what they provide. And the leaves.
What are the leaves?
The leaves represent the citizens, the believers, the followers who take shelter under the tree.
Wait, let me make sure I follow this logic perfectly.
Okay, let's track it.
If trees are leaders and leaves are the followers, then Adam putting on fig leaves represents a leader literally using his followers to cover up his own shame.
That is the exact conclusion the source draws.
Oh my goodness.
Sewing fig leaves together represents a compromised leader using their disciples, their congregation, or their employees to shield themselves from the consequences of their own failures.
That is a brutal metaphor for terrible leadership.
It is deeply cynical, but accurate.
It's like a CEO who makes a disastrous financial decision, and instead of taking the hit, they throw their lower-level employees under the bus.
Yes.
They do massive layoffs to cover up a corporate scandal and save their own bonus.
That's the modern equivalent, absolutely.
You're taking the very people you are supposed to be leading and protecting, and you are literally using their livelihoods, their bodies, as clothing to hide your own nakedness.
You are shielding your loss of mission with the people who trusted you.
It is a profound indictment of corrupted authority. It's the ultimate cowardice in leadership.
And yet the source notes that it gets worse.
How does it get worse than that?
Because fig leaves, detached from the tree, eventually wither and die. They aren't a permanent solution.
Right. The cover-up always rots.
Which forces Adam into stage 3, animal skins.
The ultimate downgrade. God steps in and clothes them in animal skins.
Yeah.
Usually people read that and think, oh, God is being merciful, giving them something more durable than leaves.
But the source reads it completely differently.
Oh, so?
It reads it as a tragic finality. The text argues that wearing animal skins represents a complete betrayal of their original human mission.
Okay, why animals?
In the symbolic language of these ancient texts, beasts or animals almost always represent agents of destruction entities that operate purely on instinct, appetite, and force.
They entirely lack spiritual intellect or divine mission.
Precisely. So to wear the skin of a beast is to become one with the beasts.
Wow.
It signifies a complete assimilation into the opposing destructive force.
Look at the tragic trajectory here.
It's a steep drop.
Adam went from wearing the radiant mission of the divine to hiding like a coward behind his dependents to finally wearing the uniform of the predator.
It's a complete devolution of identity, told entirely through a changing wardrobe.
It's incredibly bleak. But thankfully, the text doesn't just dwell on the negative side of shedding garments. It moves in the exact opposite direction.
Right. It gives us the ideal to strive for.
It spends a massive amount of time detailing the intricate, overwhelmingly positive garments of duty designed to actually protect humanity.
Yes, if the animal skin is the monochrome uniform of destruction and base instinct, the source heavily contrasts this with the vibrant, colorful garments of life, duty, and diversity.
It references the famous story of Joseph's coat of many colors, right?
It does. And interestingly, the source also draws parallels to ethnic traditional dress in our world.
Like what?
Specifically mentioning the incredibly vibrant, intricately woven, multicolored garments of the Korean and Miao peoples.
Oh, that's beautiful.
The underlying concept here is that varied, vibrant colors represent a vast multitude of different people, tribes, and cultures coming together under one unifying truth.
So the ideal uniform isn't a monochrome utilitarian jumpsuit.
No, not at all.
It's a tapestry. It's inherently diverse.
It has to be. And the ultimate highest expression of this in the source text is the high priest's garments, specifically as described in the book of Exodus, chapter 28.
Okay, let's unpack that outfit.
The text meticulously decodes the blue, purple, and scarlet yarn and the fine linen, but the absolute focal point of this uniform is the breastplate.
Right, the breastplate.
The high priest wears a breastplate containing 12 distinct precious stones.
And the source decodes these 12 stones as representing the 12 disciples, or the 12 tribes.
Yes, but it goes further.
How much further?
The myriad of threads and colors woven throughout the rest of the ephod, the garment itself, represents the disciples of the disciples.
Wow.
It branches out generation after generation like a massive, colorful family tree.
Think about what this means practically.
Yeah.
The high priest is physically wearing the weight, the identity, and the diversity of the entire community on his chest and on his shoulders.
That is a stunning contrast to Adam. Let's put them side by side.
Let's do it.
Adam used people as disposable fig leaves to hide his own shame.
While the high priest wears people as precious jewels, proudly displaying them on his chest as the very definition of his mission.
That is the crux of the leadership dynamic in this text. A failed leader hides behind their people. A true leader carries their people.
That is such a powerful image.
And speaking of the high priest, the source takes a fascinating detour regarding his specific duties that we absolutely have to unpack.
Yes, because it adds a whole new dimension to what this truth actually does.
It involves the high priest entering the Holy of Holies.
This is the most sacred inner sanctum of the ancient temple, right?
Yes, the place where the literal presence of God supposedly dwelled.
And this detail about the protective smoke absolutely blew my mind.
It's a wild detail.
So the priest goes into this highly dangerous room, and he carries incense with him.
Right.
Now, the text identifies this incense not just as a pleasant smell to cover up ancient odors, but as the literal words, prayers, and truth of God.
It is the mission in a combustible form.
Okay, I love that phrasing.
And here's the insight the source points out. The smoke generated by burning this incense acts as a physical, or rather symbolic shield.
A shield, like armor.
Yeah, it creates this dense, billowing cloud that covers the overwhelming raw glory of God inside the room.
Why is that necessary?
Because if the mortal priest looks directly at the unshielded glory, if he is exposed to that raw divine radiation without a buffer, he dies instantly.
Oh, wow.
The smoke protects him.
So the truth you carry, the incense, the mission you are executing, actually creates a protective atmosphere around you.
Yes.
Without carrying that mission, without actively burning that incense, the raw, volatile power of the environment would absolutely destroy you.
It's a brilliant mechanism.
It's like the mission itself generates a force field.
Exactly.
Think about it in a modern context. If you walk into a highly volatile situation, maybe it's a massive crisis at work, or a deeply toxic family dispute.
Without your truth actively burning.
Exactly. Without a clear sense of your mission and your ethics, you won't survive the exposure. You will be consumed by the stress, the anger, or the raw emotion of the room.
You'll just absorb it all.
But if you carry your incense, if you know exactly why you are there and what your duty is, that clarity creates a smokescreen that protects your core identity.
It perfectly illustrates that duty isn't just a heavy burning you drag around. It is an active mechanism of survival. Without it, you are entirely vulnerable.
But the source material adds yet another layer of complexity to this wardrobe.
Because of course it does.
Up until now, we've talked about singular outfits. You wear the coat or you don't. You wear the breastplate or you wear the animal skin.
Simple binary choices.
Right. But the text makes a very sharp distinction between different layers of clothing, which introduces a necessary paradox.
The layering is where the code becomes highly specific about how we operate in the world.
Okay.
To explain this, the expert giving the source lecture brings up a rather wild reinterpretation of a very famous verse from the Sermon on the Mount.
Matthew 5:40, right?
Yes. The verse says, "If anyone wants to sue you and take your tunic, hand over your cloak as well."
Now, usually we hear that verse and think it's a lesson about extreme passivity.
Turning the other cheek.
Yeah, being so aggressively agreeable that you just let people rob you blind in court.
And the source vehemently rejects that interpretation. It essentially calls it a foolish surface-level reading.
So how does it decode it?
It decodes the two specific items of clothing mentioned. In the ancient world, you had the inner garment, the tunic, which was worn close to the skin.
Yeah.
Then you had the outer garment, the cloak or coat, worn over it.
Makes sense.
In this cipher, the inner tunic represents your inner truth. It is the core essence of what you know and believe internally.
Right.
The outer garment, the cloak, represents your outward mission, your actions, your evangelism, your physical movement in the world.
So what the text is actually saying is that you cannot separate the two.
No, you can't.
If you are going to give someone your inner truth, if you're going to share your tunic with them, you must also give them the outward action and the mission.
You must give them the cloak.
You can't just have an internal, private belief system without an external execution of that belief. They are a package deal.
It's a demand for absolute integrity. The inside must match the outside.
Right.
You cannot claim to hold the truth internally if your outward actions don't reflect it. But, and this is crucial, this outward mission is not a clean, easy, pristine process.
No, it rarely is.
And this is where the source introduces what we can call the paradox of blood.
This part seems totally contradictory at first glance.
It does. The source looks at Revelation 19, where the bride, representing the collective body of believers, prepares for a grand cosmic wedding feast.
Okay.
She is described as wearing bright, clean, fine linen. And the text explicitly states that this pristine linen represents the righteous acts of the saints.
That sounds perfect. It sounds like the ultimate happy ending. Clean, white, victorious garments.
But then you hit the paradox.
The paradox is found a few chapters earlier in Revelation 7.14, which the source heavily emphasizes.
It asks the question, how do these robes get so white?
Right.
The text says they are made white by washing them in the blood of the Lamb.
This is strange.
And furthermore, Revelation 19 describes another central figure riding into battle wearing a robe that is already dipped in blood, representing the Word of God in action.
Wait, that makes no logical sense. How does washing a piece of white linen in blood make it white?
Physically, it doesn't.
And if they are the ultimate good guys, the righteous victors, shouldn't their robes be clean from the start? Why are they soaked in blood?
It's a deliberate subversion of expectations. But if you apply the code, that the outer garment is your action and your mission in the world, it starts to align perfectly.
It goes back to the surgeon analogy.
Exactly.
A trauma surgeon goes into the operating room to save a life. It is the most righteous, important, positive act they can perform. But in doing that mission, their scrubs get completely covered in blood. They are doing the hard, messy, visceral work of saving a life in a broken world.
It's unavoidable.
You don't judge a surgeon as dirty or unrighteous because their scrubs are bloody. The blood is the proof that they actually did the work.
That is a phenomenal way to understand it. The duty itself is bloody.
Yeah.
The mission requires struggle, pain, and getting your hands dirty in the reality of human suffering. A clean uniform that hasn't seen battle, or a surgeon's scrub that has never seen a drop of blood isn't a sign of righteousness.
It's a sign of inaction. It's just a costume.
Exactly. It's just a costume.
And it's only after the surgery is successful, after the hard work is done and the life is saved, that the surgeon gets to scrub out,
Right.
take off the bloody garments, and change into clean white clothes for the celebration banquet.
You don't go to the victory banquet in your bloody scrubs.
No. But you also absolutely do not earn the right to attend the banquet unless you were willing to get bloody in the first place.
True righteousness, according to the source code, requires passing through the struggle.
The clean linen of the future is earned by wearing the blood-stained garment of the present mission.
And if garments are a mission, and the mission inevitably involves blood and struggle, then we are, without a doubt, talking about warfare.
Which launches us perfectly into the next major concept, suiting up and the sheer absurdity of the naked soldier.
Because if we are in a war, we need armor.
And the source takes a very deep, very analytical look at the famous armor of God passage in Ephesians 6.
The source breaks down the concept of spiritual warfare with a very necessary caveat right up front.
Which is?
It is explicit that these are not physical weapons. We aren't talking about swords of steel or modern assault rifles or tanks.
Right.
This is entirely a spiritual, psychological, and ideological battle against an opposing cosmic force characterized as the devil.
But even if the war is ideological, the uniform is still strictly required.
Mandatory.
And the very first piece of the uniform mentioned, the foundational piece, is the belt of truth.
The text places immense structural emphasis on the belt.
Why the belt? It seems like a minor accessory.
Because historically, if you look at a Roman soldier's equipment, the balteus, the belt, held the entire uniform together.
Oh, I see.
It held the scabbard for the sword. It secured the breastplate tightly against the body. It tucked up the tunic so the soldier could actually run without tripping.
So without the belt of truth, the entire mission, the whole uniform, literally falls apart the moment you enter the chaos of battle.
You'd trip over your own clothes.
You trip over your own beliefs. The truth is the foundation of your structural integrity.
Exactly. But the real meat of this section, the argument the source makes with the most passion and frankly a bit of sarcasm, is about the dynamic between the shield and the sword.
And I love how the source text handles this because it doesn't hold back at all.
It truly doesn't.
The source argues fiercely against a very common modern mindset, the reliance solely on the shield of faith. In the code, faith is undeniably a defensive tool. It blocks incoming attacks. It protects you from the flaming arrows of doubt or despair.
But the expert in the text explains a harsh reality of combat.
Which is?
If you only have a shield, you are entirely playing defense.
You were just standing there taking hits.
Yes. And eventually, no matter how strong your shield is, no matter how deep your faith is, the enemy will batter you down.
You cannot win a war through attrition if you can never strike back.
You must also possess the sword of the Spirit, which the text defines as the word or the active articulated truth.
You need both, defense and offense.
The shield to protect your core, and the sword to advance the line and dismantle the enemy's arguments.
The source essentially mocks believers who adopt a passive, just believe and go to heaven mentality.
It views them as dangerously naive.
It compares them to soldiers running out onto a live, brutal battlefield completely naked, holding absolutely nothing but a shield.
The source uses a fantastic phrase that essentially translates to entering the army bare-bottomed.
It's utterly absurd. It's like a soccer team fielding 11 goalies and 0 strikers.
That's a great image.
You might block a few shots initially, but you are just waiting to lose, and frankly, it's going to look ridiculous to anyone watching.
It highlights a critical vulnerability that many people overlook.
Right.
If you think you are in a war, but you refuse to carry a weapon, you aren't a soldier, you are a target.
Wow.
You must have the complete garment. The truth to hold you together, the behavior to protect your heart, the mission to move your feet, the faith to defend yourself, and the articulate truth to fight back.
But here is the terrifying part of the cipher.
Okay, what's that?
What if you think you are fully suited up?
Ah.
What if you look in the metaphorical mirror and see a perfectly dressed soldier, but in reality, from the perspective of the ultimate truth, you are that naked guy with the shield?
That is the big question.
Which leads us to our final major concept, the counterfeit couture and the devil's wardrobe.
To wrap up this massive overarching metaphor, the expert in the source points out a chilling reality about the opposing forces in this cosmic battle.
They aren't always easy to spot.
No, they don't typically look like hideous, grotesque monsters from a horror movie. Sometimes they are just wearing the wrong designer labels.
The deception is incredibly subtle.
It's the concept of unaware nakedness. The text references a specific group, the Church of Laodicea, mentioned in Revelation 3.
Yes. To understand this, we need a little historical context.
Okay, lay the groundwork.
The ancient city of Laodicea was incredibly wealthy. They had a famous medical school known for producing an eye salve. They were a major banking hub, and they were internationally famous for producing this highly sought-after, glossy black wool.
So they were doing very well for themselves.
They literally had the best clothes, the best medicine, and the most money.
So they are sitting there, wealthy, comfortable, and believing they are beautifully dressed.
They think they have the ultimate truth and a successful mission.
But the source text reveals that from the divine perspective, the ultimate reality check, they are declared to be wretched, pitiful, poor, blind, and naked.
It's a direct, sarcastic attack on their physical reality versus their spiritual reality.
They've completely compromised their truth. They have abandoned their actual mission in favor of comfort, yet they remain totally unaware of their own exposure.
They're wandering around wearing the emperor's new clothes as spirituality.
They think they are the high priest wearing the jewels, but they are actually Adam hiding in the bushes, entirely stripped of their purpose.
And speaking of hiding and exposure, the source brings up a highly symbolic, almost shocking interpretation of a verse from Leviticus chapter 18, verse 7.
Yes.
The verse says, "Do not uncover your mother's nakedness." Now, on a literal historical level, that's a strict law about incest and family structure.
Right, but decoded through this framework.
What does it mean?
Decoded, it takes on a massive structural meaning regarding loyalty and truth. The source interprets the mother in this context as the church, the teacher, or the bride of Christ.
Essentially, the entity or the community that birthed you spiritually.
Yes.
So what does it mean to uncover her nakedness?
It means exposing, mocking, or betraying the very source that gave you your spiritual life and truth.
Okay.
If the mother experiences a moment of failure or a loss of garment, uncovering her nakedness is the act of pointing it out to destroy her rather than covering her or restoring her.
Oh, I see.
It's about a fundamental lack of loyalty. It highlights the deeply destructive nature of turning against the origin of your own mission.
That makes total sense within the logic of the code. But it raises a huge question.
Which is?
If the good guys wear white linen washed in blood, and the compromised, oblivious guys are unknowingly naked, What do the active, intentional bad guys wear?
That's the million-dollar question.
Because they clearly aren't naked. They have power, they have influence, they must have uniforms too.
They absolutely do. The devil and his followers have their own elaborate, highly specific, and very expensive garments.
Of course they do.
The text tracks this through several passages to establish a clear pattern.
Like what?
In Luke 16, the rich man who ends up in hell is explicitly described as wearing purple and fine linen.
Okay.
In Revelation 17, the opposing queen, the prostitute of Babylon, wears purple and scarlet.
Interesting.
And of course, the ultimate opposing force, the entity manipulating all of this behind the scenes, is depicted as a massive red dragon.
Purple and scarlet, why those specific colors?
In the ancient world, purple and scarlet dyes were astronomically expensive to produce.
Right.
They were extracted from rare sea snails and specific insects. Therefore, they were the exclusive colors of royalty, of massive wealth, of empire, and of earthly coercive power.
So they aren't wearing rags, they are wearing the absolute pinnacle of worldly success.
Exactly. And the text notes the profound danger of this deception. These opposing forces look incredibly good.
They look successful.
They're wearing fine linen just like the saints. They have a structure, they have a mission, they even perform actions that look righteous on the surface.
Really? Like what kind of actions?
The source mentions that these counterfeit forces might preach effectively, they might heal people, they might even cast out demons.
Wow.
They meticulously mimic the behavior of the truth.
So what this all means is that the counterfeit looks incredibly close to the original.
Almost identical.
They have a mission. They claim a truth. But the source argues it's just a few degrees off center.
And that's what makes it dangerous.
It's a terrifying thought when you really sit with it. You can be dressed to the nines, you can be performing miracles, speaking with authority, gathering massive crowds.
Doing all the right things.
But because your core truth is ultimately aligned with the coercive power of the red dragon rather than the sacrificial mission of the lamb, you're playing for the entirely wrong team.
It forces a massive, uncomfortable self-audit.
It really does.
It's not enough to simply ask, am I wearing a uniform? Am I busy doing things?
Right.
You have to stop and ask, who issued this uniform? What is the actual core truth this uniform is representing? Is it built on sacrifice or is it built on domination?
We've covered a truly massive amount of ground today.
We really have.
Let's bring all these threads together. Today's deep dive explored a textual world where absolutely nothing is just what it seems on the surface.
Everything is code.
We looked at a sophisticated psychological framework where every song you sing is a binding declaration of your allegiance, and every piece of clothing you wear is an outward manifestation of your inner truth and your cosmic duty.
We moved from the triumphant, world-shifting hallelujah that can only ring out after the ruthless voices are actively silenced,
To the tragic nakedness of Adam shedding his divine duty and hiding behind his own followers.
We explored the absolute necessity of integrating both the inner tunic of belief and the outer cloak of action.
And we didn't shy away from the messy, blood-stained garments that are required for true, active spiritual warfare.
We learned that you cannot just run onto the battlefield naked, holding a shield of faith and hoping for the best.
Definitely not.
And you certainly cannot trust everyone who walks up to you wearing a fancy purple robe, no matter how many miracles they seem to be performing.
In an age of absolute information overload where we are bombarded with competing narratives every second of the day, I think the most vital takeaway from this ancient cipher is to recognize the triumph songs we allow into our minds.
Absolutely.
We must be deeply critically conscious of the metaphorical uniforms we put on every single morning to face the world. You have to ask yourself, are you wearing a true garment of mission? Or are you just desperately sewing together fig leaves to hide your own insecurities?
It's a question we all need to ask ourselves.
Which brings us to our final thought for today. We spent all this time talking about ancient texts, warning us about running into battle naked or wearing a counterfeit uniform.
Right.
Now take this cipher and look around at the digital world today. Look at social media. Look at our curated news bubbles.
It's a battlefield of its own.
Look at the intense corporate identities we wrap ourselves in. Look at the digital avatars we meticulously create and present to the world. Are the beliefs you wear every single day truly your own custom-fitted armor?
Are they born of your own struggle, your own blood, and your own truth?
Or did you just buy a mass-produced purple robe off the rack because everyone else in your feed was wearing it
Yeah.
and it looked like power?
It's an easy trap to fall into.
Are you singing the true code of the Matrix, or are you just staring blankly at the glass? Think about it.
Thank you for taking this journey with us.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive. We'll see you next time.